now given this information, let's go ahead and work on this example problem with various types of transformations. So we'll go to A, and the first thing that you should ask yourself if there are multiple transformations is, do I need to worry about the order? And the answer for this one, as we've established before, is yes, we need to worry about the order. When we conclude that we need to worry about the order, we're going to make sure we follow the tip that I gave, that first, any vertical stretch, reflection, or compression does not multiply the shift. Now in part A it does, so to remedy this, we'll go ahead and distribute. So g of x is equal to -1/2 f of x minus 1 minus 1. We also need to make sure that any horizontal stretches, compressions, and reflections do multiply the horizontal shift, but lucky for us in this case, there is no horizontal stretch, reflection, or compression. After you've done this step, you can simply list the transformations. Just make sure that you put the shift last. So here we have a vertical reflection about the x-axis. We have a vertical compression, so we can go ahead and list those. So vertical compression by a factor of 1/2. We have a vertical reflection about the x-axis. And then I'll go ahead and put the shift, vertical shift down by 1. Finally, we also have a horizontal transformation. It is to the right by 1. So horizontal transformation, a shift, right 1. Let's see what we can do with this next problem. So the first thing I'll ask is, do I need to worry about the order? Now, in the vertical direction, we have a vertical, I suppose this would be a vertical stretch by 3, by a factor of 3, but we don't have any vertical shift up or down. So we don't need to worry too much about the order in the vertical direction. However, in the horizontal direction, we have this minus, which is a horizontal reflection, and we have a shift. And when we have horizontal reflection and a horizontal shift, we need to worry about the order. Specifically, we need to make sure that all horizontal compression, stretches, and reflections also multiply the shift. And in this problem, that is not true. This minus here does not multiply the shift. So we'll have to factor out that minus. So let's put down first, we'll worry about the order. And then we'll go ahead and factor out this minus. So what did we call this? H. So h of x is equal to 3f. We'll factor out the minus. We'll put x. And then we have to put something here so that negative times that will give me 1. So negative times what is equal to 1? Well, that question mark would have to be -1. So I'll go ahead and put -1 here. And I think I'll go ahead and call this, instead of plus -1, -1. Okay, so now my reflection is multiplying both x and the shift. All I need to do now is write out the transformations such that the shift happens last. So I have a vertical stretch by 3, by a factor of 3. We have a horizontal reflection about the x-axis. Excuse me, if this is a horizontal reflection, then we're moving left and right. We can't reflect about the x-axis, we'd have to reflect about the y-axis. So this would be the y-axis. And then finally we have our shift, which is a horizontal shift to the right. Right by 1. I think a couple remarks are appropriate at this time. So if you had to actually apply these transformations, it would be important that you follow the order that is listed. That is, for part A, you would have to do the compression first, the reflection, the shift, and then the horizontal shift. So once you list what the order is, make sure you follow that order if you actually apply these transformations to a graph. The other remark that I would like to make is that the important thing about the order is that out of all the vertical transformations, the vertical shift happens last. And out of all of the horizontal transformations, the horizontal shift happens last. So what that means is that it would be okay if you switch the order of the compression and the reflection. If you switch the order of these, that would be okay because still the vertical shift is the last vertical transformation. But you could not switch the order of the vertical shift and the vertical reflection because then the vertical shift would not be the last transformation. Let's go ahead and summarize what we did. So when there are multiple transformations, the first thing you have to ask is, does the order matter? Remember, the order will matter when you have a vertical stretch, compression, or reflection, and a vertical shift. It will also matter if you have a horizontal stretch, compression, reflection, and horizontal shift. If the order matters, then rewrite according to the previous tip. Let's go ahead and revisit that. So you need to rewrite so that the vertical stretch slash compression slash reflection does not multiply the vertical shift. This should be vertical shift. And the horizontal stretch compression reflection does not multiply the horizontal shift. If you find yourself in this first scenario, you have to distribute. And if you find yourself in the second scenario, you'll have to factor. And sometimes you may not have to rewrite because your problem will already be in the form that is required. For example, with this problem, the horizontal compression already multiplies the shift, so you don't have to factor anything. It's already done for you. But if the order matters, you should ask yourself, is the problem written in the form that I need? If it's not, then rewrite it. Then once you do this, you can list the transformations And you're going to make sure the shifts happen last. That is, out of all the vertical transformations, the vertical shift happens last, and out of all of the horizontal transformations, the horizontal shift happens last. Now that we've summarized what we did, let's go ahead and do these last two problems, which I've saved for the end because they're a bit easier. So for part C, you'll see that when we ask ourselves, does the order matter? The answer is no, because we have a vertical compression, but no vertical shift. And we have a horizontal shift, but no horizontal stretch, compression, or reflection. So you can list the transformations in whatever order you want. I'll say vertical stretch. It's not a stretch, it's a compression. Vertical compression by a factor of 1/2. I should put by a factor here, but I'm running out of room. And then we have a horizontal shift left by 1. If you put the shift first, that'd be fine. Finally, on this last problem, we have this 2 multiplying the x. That's going to result in a horizontal compression by a factor of 1/2. Then we have a vertical shift up by 1. And I suppose I should have done this first. I should have asked myself, does the order matter? We've talked about this, but just to reemphasize, it doesn't matter because there's only a vertical shift. There's no vertical stretch, compression, or reflection associated with this problem. And there's only a horizontal compression. There's not a horizontal shift in this problem. If there was a horizontal shift, we'd have to worry about the order. But again, there's not, so we don't have to.